Happy New Year. Hello, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association, and welcome to AAFCA Roundtables. On today's roundtable, we are excited to welcome the wonderful actress Karen Pittman, who is one of the stars of the Apple TV Plus series, The Morning Show. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the AAFCA members who are on the call today, starting with Carolyn Hines in Toronto, Canada, Cherry in Los Angeles, Dana Abercrombie in LA, Niger, what market are you in?
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Thank you, sir. Nancy Green in Los Angeles, Karan in Philadelphia, new location. Welcome, Karan. And finally, we have Corey Washington in Los Angeles, right, Corey? Terrific. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
You know, we were supposed to change things, weren't we? I wanted to make a difference.
I need to have a say in the future of this place.
I want to build something that matters. I want to win.
It isn't real. It's all smoke and mirrors.
You need a miracle. I am offering you a lifeline.
5, 4, 3. Honestly, let all the secrets come out. They did not protect me.
They didn't protect you, but I did.
It's time to smash and shatter. Let's burn it all down.
I hope it was all worth it.
Everybody fighting.
Hello, Dana Abercrombie, the Coalition. It's an honor to speak to you. I am fascinated by the relationship between Mia and Andre. It is very interesting in terms of he was in Ukraine, you didn't know where he was at, and instead of coming right directly home to you or even calling you, you see him on TV. There's the heated argument that says, you know, you called him a middle-aged adrenaline junkie who would rather bounce between wars than commit to a zip code. But yet, at the end, you decided it's better to work together than apart. Can you explain that mindset? Because I feel like the argument, that was the most truthful and honest you've ever been about the relationship. But it's coming back together, still living within that honesty.
The episode you're talking about is episode 8, and it really is one of my favorite episodes. You know, there's a line that journalists have to walk as far as integrity and truth, and we try to highlight some of those areas that authentically represent what journalists and producers deal with in network television news. And Mia Jordan happens to be one of those folks that work in television news who believes in integrity of journalism. She believes in truth. And her relationship with Andre is an extension of that belief and us creating that in the character. In that she wanted to make sure that Andre was okay while he was in Ukraine. She also had to make sure that she got the story out before her competition got it out, right? And so I think she did feel some sense of guilt about not having been able to check in and make sure he was okay before that story blew up at her network. And so I think her response in that moment, especially when he comes back in, was this real sense of trying to connect, trying to atone for not really taking care of him in that moment and taking care of her work and her job. And I thought the writers did a great job of walking that line. That episode was filmed by Millicent Shelton, who I'm sure most of you guys know is an incredible African-American female director. Loved working with her. And creating a consistent and continuous story around how much heart Mia has, not just for the work she does, but for the people she cares about and who she loves. I love that about her. Mia Jordan happens to be the most favorite character I've ever been allowed and had the privilege to collaborate with on writers with, and not just Charlotte Stout, our showrunner for season 3, but Carrie Aaron, who was our showrunner for season 1 and 2. So hopefully you'll see more of me and Andre in season 4. Loved working with Clive Standen, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks for that question.
Hi, my name is Nigeria Chambers from Big Go Belt Media. Karen, it's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Hi, Nigeria.
How you doing? How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I know we're here to talk about the morning show. I just want to make sure I give you your flowers for just the banger of a year you had last year with all things the morning show, and obviously, and just like that, two of the biggest shows that have respected streaming network. So I just want to make sure we acknowledge that work. But in talking about the morning show, Mia, and I agree, one of my favorite characters, and the internet has a lot of fun with Mia because there's a lot of emphasis about just her work ethic. There's even a funny Reddit thread that goes out there that says that Mia doesn't have a home. She lives at the UBA, which is hilarious because I think we've only seen her place like one time. So it's like, it's completely hilarious. I'm kind of buying into it that she has like a room somewhere in the UBA. But a character or sort of self arc with this character is the work-life balance. I'm curious about just how much have you learned from this character, and personally, have you been able to apply in terms of accomplishing something that everyone struggles with work-life balance?
I mean, I've had no luck in balancing work and life. I don't think that any of us can. I was also talking to some friends of mine about this over the holiday. I feel like we're the first generation of African American women who really have benefited from all of the sacrifices that our mothers had made to have us out in the workplace. We got our degrees. We went out into the workplace and were able to self-actualize and self-realize in ways that our mothers could not. Society wouldn't allow them. Patriarchal systems wouldn't allow them. I'm thinking of Anita Hill. I'm thinking of Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm thinking of, just so many women, especially women of color, African American women, who could not see themselves in the way that Mia Jordan sees herself, in the way that Nia Wallace sees herself, in the way that Willa Hayes sees herself on Yellowstone. Just so many of the characters that I'm able to create. I have the great privilege of presenting to women authentically, but also African American women. Who are we? What are we doing out here in this world, creating and realizing and actualizing our goals? And what is that doing to us as humans, and what is it doing to the culture of work out here to have us out here in this way? And so, in my own life, absolutely not have any work-life balance. But I do enjoy working hard, and I love a challenge. And so, but yeah, I feel like it's a great privilege to represent what a woman looks like in the 21st century on American television, on these incredible shows that, you're right, I get the great privilege to work on.
Hi, Karen. My name is Cherry. I've been watching the show and I love Mia very much. And I feel this year they really kind of reminded us of white women femininity and their dualship. And this year you have your own team. How did you sort of get your character around that? Did you have any experience in your personal life that you'd like to share that you brought into the role this year?
I try not to. I'm hoping that when you bounce from the characters that I do in television and film, that you actually don't see me. I mean, all of these sort of ideas spring out of my imagination and what I put my finger on the pulse of what I observe as an artist in our society. But these characters came out of the imagination of, our incredible writers. And I think, what was the question? Wait, take me back to that question again.
This season, it really was
yes,
the white femininity and their teamwork, and then they like to bring in an ethnic woman to sort of shore them up.
I didn't feel like that was part of our experience. I remember having conversations with Charlotte Stout several months before we started season 3, and we talked about what did we want to see about Mia, what did we want to expand. Definitely felt like the audience had been clamoring for more. Like, what is she? We get that she's committed to her job and that she's gotten a promotion and she's successful at it, but what lies underneath the emotion in this character? And the producers were very intent on opening up the aperture of the character. It was time to do it. Michael Ellenberg and Charlotte, and Mimi and I discussed what the character is and what she should look like. The great part about this show, I think that any woman will tell you, is working with Mimi Leader. Because you not only see more of Mia's story, but you see more of Mia, right? You see her body, you see her in the shower, you see her whipping off her clothes and jumping into bed with a cute guy. You see her. And under the aegis of Mimi's gaze, you get to see a side of femininity and female fragility through the lens of the camera. You see it also with my colleague Nicole Bahari. I mean, you saw her walking down the hallway in episode 3 with the song on. And that is part and parcel, I think, of what the morning show does really well. You get to see the women and their emotions and their feelings through the lens of Mimi's gaze. And she really does love to linger on women and women bodies and have their behavior out front as far as the storytelling is concerned. So I think it was like a group effort to get us all online with who Mia is emotionally and bring more of her personal, emotional arc to the center. And I think we did that really well.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Cherry. Thank you for that question.
Hi, Karen. This is Corey Washington from Los Angeles. I am so glad to be here to help with this development and really to talk about the morning show. But the morning show has developed to become a great benchmark for television during our merging of news and social media over the last 5 years. The confidence of self that you've infused in Mia is appreciated. Now, how do you approach the journalism backstory of Mia, coupled with her absolute protection of her personal relationships we see come to life in the forefront in this season?
Well, that's kind of a two-pronged question. I spend a lot of time looking at television morning news. I have had communications probably, and to some extent, with every executive producer on a television morning network news, major network news, in the last 3-4 years. I think as far as journalistic integrity is concerned, it's a very unique person who works in television news, but it's also a very unique person who works in morning television news. There's a distinction between it, and there's a kind of an authenticity that you want to get right. Those particular human beings are loners. They're vampires. They live their own life in their own world. And to get the kind of focus and quietness and seriousness of and the sobriety of what it looks like to be a person who goes in at 3 a.m. and comes out and then is in the bed by 3 or 4 and is constantly grabbing and pulling from the orbit around journalism and putting those into a story that we watch every morning, along with drinking a cup of coffee and learning how to, create, pigs in a blanket. I mean, there's just morning television news that does its own thing. It's an incredible and fertile ground as an artist and as an actor to peer into the humanity of these folks and to bring that, to dramatize it. So that's number one. What was the second part of the question?
The second part was, how did you, think about her absolute protection of her personal relationships? We didn't really, see all of the things that you had with your beau till season 3, and you're speaking Russian and you're doing all these things. We're like, she's been holding on to some good jewels for a long time. But I mean, but coupling that, you know what I'm saying? How do you do that? And it's still stoic and out of your office at 3 o'clock in the morning with a hot cup of coffee. It was like, you're the first one here, but that's a whole other thing. But yes, that's the question.
I think I built upon the storytelling that was created by Carrie Aaron, our showrunner, season 1 and 2, and her incredible writer's room. In season 3, Charlotte Stout came in with all kinds of ideas that blew my mind. I also have to give some credit to Joshua Allen, who was the incredible writer for episode 3, where I think all of us as African Americans were looking at that story like, like we all get it. And, they said to me, Joshua said to me, I want to make sure that people know that Black women contain multitudes. Black women contain multitudes. And so Mia has a really great, good-looking, sexy boyfriend, or a situationship happening. She speaks Russian. She's great at her job. We want to see her at home and dancing and having a good time. It was important to me, after 2 seasons of seeing this woman, climbing up the rope, struggling to do her job well, that you see her at home, joyful, happy, in love, being loved. Because I think we spend a lot of time on our show seeing all of the women in these ways. We're ambitious and we're going to get it, but we don't see the tender aspects of what it is to be a woman in these spaces as well. And personally, it was important for me to expand the story around Black female fragility, because it exists, right? We see a lot about the white female fragility on American television, but not enough where we see the angst and the sadness and the loneliness of Black women through their fragility, not through their strength and stoicism, but through their heart opening up to show it to you. And so that's the second part of her emotional landscape with her beau.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm excited for the whole season.
Thanks, Corey.
Okay.
Hi, Carolyn for Karen Talks podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. You're our first interview for 2024. So thank you for that, and Happy New Year to you. I think season 3 is very interesting because coming from season 2, where Mia and Stella and all of these women are operating in a bubble, because season 2 is coming off of the end of lockdown of the COVID pandemic. And I remember in our first conversation last year, we talked about how you as performers had to come together to support each other because it was such a stressful time emotionally, and the characters were having their own situations on screen. But I think this season is very interesting for Mia because where everything in the last season was kind of out of their control and they didn't know what to do because of what was happening externally. I think this season is very interesting because it shows us that Mia is how she has control, not only in her personal life, but also at work. She is the person in the booth. She's controlling the stories, she's literally controlling the narratives. And I think it's so fascinating to see a Black woman in this particular position because she's controlling the news. She's controlling what story gets told, when it gets told, how it gets told, who's telling the story. So talk about that aspect of Mia, because I think it's very important that we have, and it's not, and not just because she's a Black woman, but just having a woman say, okay, we're having situations like Roe v. Wade being repealed. You have a woman controlling when that story comes out. You have a story about a black female newscaster being disrespected by the president of the company, and Mia's okay, this is when we're gonna do this story. This is how we're gonna let Chris control the narrative and control how this interview is gonna play out. So talk about Mia and having this control and playing a character who's allowed to have as much control as she has.
Well, I think that's the great, that is the great shift in telling stories where we are not focused on patriarchy. We're very intentionally putting women out front and putting women in the lead. And, there aren't before all of the sort of reckoning that happened in television morning news, there were very few female executive producers. Now there are more, right? They're still dealing with it. But I think in many ways, American television news is run by men almost entirely. And so seeing Mia authentically come into her own and to fight for that space, I think is really empowering and interesting storytelling. And I also think it's we spent a lot of time in season 2 trying to distinguish between what kind of executive producer Mia Jordan was going to be and what kind of executive producer Chip was season 1, and where Chip is kind of running around and doing a lot of. Mia is very like, no, it's this, and she's drinking her green juice, and Chip is eating hot dogs, but Mia's like, no, it's like this and like that, and hey, you go down that road with me, you're going to have some snacks because you know what I mean. She's very much in charge and knows what she's doing, and it's a huge leap from season 1 where she was trying to protect her reputation and grapple with this workplace romance that had ended. I think for me, it's really about representing a human being that has integrity, that is focused on being the best that she can be for the people that she works for. But I will also say that season 3 was a little messy for me. I mean, you did see her in that relationship, not necessarily doing it perfectly, and acknowledging that she's not going to change as it relates to her goals and her life. So you're right. It's been this really interesting sort of arc over the last 3 seasons of grounding this woman in her work, and also making sure that we explore all the other facets that make her who she is. Did I answer that question?
No, you did. Yeah, like her love is messy and unpredictable, but at least she has control in the newsroom, right? At least that's the one thing she has that she can like technically control. But no, thank you so much.
A little bit. We'll see in season 4 if that keeps up. But yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Hey, Karen. Karan from Karanism.com and Love Music Pleasure. And speaking of love, music, and pleasure, I have to say, this year we got to see a side of Mia that we didn't before. Not only did she embrace her power, but when she was asked, she wanted more. When she was asked what she really wanted, she stated what she really wanted, clearly, flat-footed, 10 toes to the ground without any question or hesitation. I've watched you on stage. We've watched you on screen. We watch you on big and small screens. And somebody told me you can sing too, but I'm not going to go there right now. But my question to you is.
I see you, Corey.
I see him too. When was the last time you knew you were operating out of your power versus out of fear?
Oh, as a human being, or as the actor, or as the character?
As a human being and as an actor.
Well, I mean, one of the things that has been interesting for me in the last year is portraying these 2 very different women, and in large part on shows that are the most popular shows on their particular networks. As a woman who, totally understands what Taraji P. Henson was talking about, you keep your nose to the grindstone, you work very, very hard. Knowing that the kind of recognition and acknowledgement and accolades that go to, my white female peers don't necessarily come my way. Let's say that. For the work that I have done and the shows that I'm doing and what I have done, I am aware that if I were of another hue, I probably would be living a different situation in my career. Having said that, I feel that the great gift in understanding my work is understanding my worth. And that's one of the areas where I've come to understand my power over the last year. especially working on these two incredible shows, that I do bring something quite valuable to the table, that these characters are beloved and people like to watch them and want to watch them. They want to know more about them. And that's a, extraordinarily powerful position to be in. There's a lot for me to feel hopeful and positive about, even while knowing that I want to continue to expand the aperture of characters, the work, the storytelling that I'm able to do as an artist, and to continue to push my collaborators to keep making room for me, to keep making room for the characters and to open them up. So, one of the moral responsibilities of being a Black woman and a Black actress in this industry is that you don't give up. You start to deepen your understanding of your power, that it might not necessarily come from places where you think it's going to come from, and yet you must know it anyway. You must know it anyway. And that is, so many Black women I know will probably relate to that. But in my career in the last year, I've come to understand the power of knowing who I am and knowing my worth through the work that I do in a way that I could never have imagined. And I'm committed to the process, and I hope you guys will continue to be on the journey with me.
I'm so glad it's your time, because it is your time. And it is so well, it's not even deserved. It's earned. You've earned this time in the spotlight on all these networks, on all of these shows. I'm grateful because your greatest gift to us is your humanity. Thank you for humanizing these characters. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, dear.
Hi, I'm Nancy Green with Film Critique.
Hey, Nancy.
Hi. And one of the things that I find really interesting about this show is the fact that it gives you this feeling of seeing behind the scenes of these types of shows, especially now when social media is giving that to us also in real life, a lot of the controversies that we've seen. So I wanted to know, how do you feel about that? And how do you feel like this reflects society in general?
Well, I think part of what, I know that Mark Duplass had a really gorgeous monologue. I think it was in episode 10, where he really talked about the difference between what you pull down from Twitter and Instagram, and what you get on television network news, and hopefully what you see on television network news is fact driven, where I think a lot of what you see on social media, IG, the X, also known as Twitter, and Threads, and all the other spots where we sort of cull our news from are not necessarily based in fact. So I certainly am a consumer on social media. I love it. It's entertaining to me. I probably look at it too much. But I do understand the influence of technology in how we receive our entertainment, how we receive our news. And I think that's worthy of examining. I think the morning show has done that over the last 3 years, or rather 3 seasons. The intersection of culture, entertainment, and technology, I think, is, in my mind, so well connected to what Apple TV Plus is about. Like, that's part of the conversation. And what an extraordinary gift it is to not just be telling a story about it, but also to be part of the mechanism in the culture that is asking us to reflect on it, asking us to be a part of the conversation. So, yeah, I think it's just going to get deeper and deeper. Do you know what I mean? I think our technology is going to have to see our way through social media and internet and YouTube and AI and chatbot and GPT. It's all sort of coming together. I'm going to be really interested to see how it changes how artists work, how we tell stories, and less about how it changes the industry, but more about how it changes us as humans. I'm interested in that. My son is an animator. He loves game design, and he is telling these extraordinary stories through gaming, which I could never have imagined. Like how do you do that? But of course, there's Final Fantasy. There's all these, there's Crunchyroll. There's a million different ways for us to tell stories, get news, get information nowadays, and yeah, I mean, it's going to go on and on and on. I'm excited about the possibilities.
Nice, nice. Thank you. And I find the morning show, it's really fascinating. So I like that. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thank you, Gil.
We love you on this.
Just want to
No, I'm
thank
sorry.
all of you guys. I just want to thank all of you guys and all of the African American film critics for your support of my career and the work. We in it together, like this, 10 toes down. Right back at you. Sorry, Gil, I wanted to make sure that I added that because we just, we don't get our opportunities to lift each other up enough. So thank you.
I appreciate that. We thank you. Again, we are here for you. We love your role in this show and really everything that you do. So on behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for watching AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.